Well, it certainly has been a long time. I'm not really sure how to write an opening for this video. Not only do I feel vulnerable, but I'm also still trying to come to terms with recent events. So, a while back, I was on the verge of becoming homeless. Luckily, things worked themselves out, but the entire experience and the almost heart-stopping panic attacks are something that will stick with me for a very long time. I'm also currently working a dead-end retail job where people think that it is okay to just be rude to me and everyone else who works there. And I'm sure saying that applies to many of you guys who are currently working jobs similar. Also, the job I have doesn't actually give me lunch breaks, but on the few occasions where me and my coworker can work something out where we'll give each other a break, I usually take that time to just watch random videos on YouTube. So, on one of these lunch breaks, I sat in my shabby little car with a very healthy meal of chips and a soda while deciding what to watch. After some scrolling and some flashbacks to my Tumblr days, I finally picked something. I decided to watch a little show called Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Now, I'm not new to Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared as a concept. I remember seeing it back in 2012, 2011. I especially remember seeing those humanized versions of the Notepad and Tony the Clock. However, what I wasn't aware of was that in 2022 they released a TV series. I honestly don't know how I missed it, but I did. So, after watching the episodes of the TV series, I started to get more Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared lore or essay videos in my recommended. You know, the 2-hour analysis type of videos where they try to dig into the lore. Now, to be clear, I don't want to sound like I'm dissing this type of content. I don't hate videos like these. I love me a good analysis video myself. I mean, I watched like a 3-hour video on the Jimmy Neutron TV series. I get that due to the content of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, it is very easy to get sucked into finding something more. However, I believe that a lot of what these videos forget or fail to mention is something that I consider very important when it comes to analyzing and looking at art. That mainly being how it is that it makes you as the viewer feel. To me personally, how artwork makes you feel is just as important as what the artwork is trying to say. After all, it is a medium to help you express your emotions. People focus in so much on what every little detail means in the context of the world that the art is trying to make, when, in my opinion, this show is less about its own world and more trying to send messages about our own. Look, what I plan to do today is to just review the TV series, and I'm going to talk about how it connects to me as a person, and also any messages that I think the show is trying to give us, mostly societal, from what I could tell. And yes, I might dig into some of the lore, however, it's not my main point. Please remember that. So get ready for episode 1, because this one's the one I have most to say on. So, episode 1 starts with the main three sitting around their kitchen. The main three here being just called Yellow Guy, Red Guy, and Duck. Duck questions over and over what their plans for the day are and keeps getting more antsy as the thought of not having done anything gets to him. Then, in regular Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared fashion, holy shit, a talking briefcase. After a nice hearty British breakfast, he's off to this unfamiliar thing called a job. Thankfully for those of you who play Genshin Impact in the audience, they explain what a job is in song form.
You could be the guy who types so fast on computer. A clackety 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 clack. Or you could be the one who kicks so hard at a football. It's a goal. Or you could be the one who bangs the hammer when he's angry. Order. Or you could be the one who makes people better when they're poorly. Oh, careful.
Oh, by the way, Unemployed Brendan is my favorite character. He's just like me, for real.
So you want to be like my brother? Unemployed Brendan. Take it away, Brendan.
Oh, you don't want to end up like me. Oh, I'm very shameful and upset. My brother is quite successful and perfect, even though I'm older than him.
What's he saying?
I don't want to do this anymore.
What's wrong? Now, come on, that was good. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Eventually, our three characters get stuck in a factory environment with some other random workers and with no way to leave. They eventually start to work in this factory and, as they say, become more cogs in the machine. Yellow fits in with the regular workers, while Red Guy does well as upper management, aka the boss. The only one who isn't assimilating well here is Duck, who keeps fighting with his coworkers and is overall frustrated with his place in the company. It gets to the point where Duck is actually let go of his job.
That's it. Here, take your things.
What? These aren't my things.
I'm afraid I'm letting you go.
Letting me go? From what?
To me, Duck is the most relatable character in this episode. He feels not only lost, but also disappointed. Now, if you haven't noticed, most of the jobs that were mentioned in the song, I'd like to call aspiring kids jobs. Just to explain, these are the types of jobs where if you were to ask a child what they would want to be when they grow up, it's things like a soccer player, an astronaut, an inventor. When, let's be realistic, unless you have some wealth or some actual skills, you're not going to be an astronaut. You're not going to be a famous soccer player. However, Duck is told the lie that a lot of us and a lot of kids now are being told, that if you just work hard, you can get any job you want. So now Duck is like most people when they first get into the workforce, upset, lost, frustrated, and just generally mad. Most people end up in dead-end jobs. Things like food service, customer service, retail, and just generally any job where customers can get away with treating you like absolute garbage. And the saddest part about those jobs is that you usually can't defend yourself because you will face consequences. After losing his job, Duck is then in an elevator talking to some sort of robot. The bot, in my opinion, represents what I call an enabler. It tries to convince Duck that he can put up with his job through things like therapy and suggested stress relievers, which I personally think she meant substances. You know, things like alcohol, which, by the way, do you ever think about how in order to get through most of their day, tons of people need to either drink, smoke, or get high on something? It's honestly very worrying, and on another note, Duck goes through something else I would call work conditioning. After a while, you just kind of get used to working. Not just the work, though. You eventually learn to accept that with any job will come mistreatment and abuse. Doesn't matter if it's from upper management, coworkers, or customers, mistreatment will always be there, and the only way to really block it out is with something. For some people, it's cigarettes, for some, alcohol, and for other people, including myself, weed and edibles. A paycheck is so necessary to survive in this world that most of us have convinced ourselves that we are willing to put up with shit hours or having to put up with rude customers screaming in our face. And again, this sort of stuff gets more and more worrying just the more you think about it. After that incident, Duck heads back to work, doing what seems to be a complete 180. While mingling with coworkers, he's told about a retirement party for a hardworking fellow employee, a great guy who's been with the company for 40 years.
Another guy, somebody who has been working hard or hardly working here for many years now. So let's all wish him a fond farewell.
Okay, so clearly what happened is some sort of weird jump 40 years into the future, and time hasn't exactly been kind to Red or Yellow Guy. Obviously, Duck is just confused. However, I don't think he's just confused. To me, he also seems scared. Not just scared for his friends, but at the realization that you can just spend the rest of your life working, just slaving away, using all the time that you could be using experiencing life, working a shit job that barely pays you anything. Every time I realize this about my own life, I get pretty depressed. It's enough of a depressive mood where you don't want to get up in the morning, but you have to, otherwise you won't be able to feed yourself. This thought process basically results in Duck freaking out and, well...
Finally! The accident! Look, it's here! Hey!
So, in very traditional Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared fashion, we're just thrown back into the song about jobs with the briefcase. Yeah, remember that? How this episode started out so simple? Almost like how we teach kids about work and adulthood so simply. Like how we tell them that work is rewarding and if you just work hard, you can accomplish your dreams without ever getting into the stress that comes with adulthood. Not to mention that life is in general unfair and some will naturally have advantages over others. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. The episode ends with Duck asking, what was this all for? What did they spend all that time working for? What is their reward? Which in my opinion gives a very fitting answer.
Oh yes, I almost forgot. You've earned this.
If it hasn't been clear already, this episode is about work culture or hustle culture. I can't speak for all other countries, but for anybody living in the States like me, you would especially understand that it is kind of a capitalist hellhole. You really only have two choices once you reach adulthood, which is either you can work or you can die. Or to be more specific, you can get enough money so that you can live and do things like pay your rent, or you can die. Millions of people will settle for work that not only barely pays you enough, but also doesn't give one single fuck about you. You can die tomorrow, and whatever X company that you are working for can replace you in a few days or hours. After all, those higher-ups really need their money. They only have 2 vacation homes. This absolute hell that humans have created is killing us. People spend so much time of their lives working meaningless jobs so that they can afford shit apartments and spend so much of their time just trying to cope with the terrifying realization. That realization meaning that we could spend our lives doing literally anything else. However, we have been so conditioned to believe that we need more than we actually do, that we constantly need the newest thing in order to be happy. But hey, maybe I can't judge people for that because I sort of fall under the same category. I will admit that I am quite materialistic myself, but at the same time, I realize that the only reason I am materialistic is because if I don't buy X new thing, then I will just continue to feel miserable. A part of me knows that I'll never get any higher than I am now. So why not just buy a new shirt or buy a new figurine or buy a new game and enjoy the few days of dopamine that it gives me? I could think of so many other things that I would rather be doing. I personally would love to travel more, spend more time with friends and experience new things, but I can't because at the end of the day, all those things are expensive and requires money. An amount of money that, granted, I and a lot of other people will never be able to achieve or see. Well, this is truly hell. Okay, so strong start to this series. Let's move on before I start ranting again about how much I hate capitalism and its disastrous effects that it's had on the human race. So, I just gotta mention that this episode has one of the best openings in my opinion.
Well, I'm dead.
What?
I'm dead. Says here I'm definitely dead.
That's a mistake, isn't it?
Yeah, somebody's jealous. Jealous of me being dead.
Yeah, you don't even know what it is, so why would I be?
I'd better get changed into my Sunday best. Eh?
As you can tell, Duck died. Average morning. Don't you hate that? After finding out that he died, his heart just kind of rolls around until it gets absorbed into the floor. Which, by the way, I just gotta say that this whole animation with the blood in the floorboards is just amazing to me. I honestly think that it is one of the best bits of animation in the whole show, and I don't think I've complimented the production of the show enough, I feel. Anyways, out of the floorboards popped a casket, and as you can expect, it came for our dead bird friend.
Look at that. I've been given a wreath.
So it's just him, is it? Because I feel like I could maybe be dead.
Yeah, I bet you do, but I've only got one down here.
He doesn't look that dead.
Well, there's many ways to check if you don't believe me. You can do this. Whoop.
Ooh,
Doesn't that hurt?
not that much.
My turn. Ow.
Not you, silly.
Following this is, no joke, the best song in the series.
I said we've got a lot of work to do.
We gotta get things ready for the big day, big day. We gotta get things ready for the special day.
Cutting out bunting and making a cake.
It's a celebration for our best mate.
Dressing up smart and wearing smart shoes. Need to figure out which tie to choose.
Then you need to get the pastry dish.
And add a little bit more margarine. We gotta get things ready for the big day.
Huh?
What?
What are we doing?
Oh no, it's the funeral. It's the funeral, sorry.
We gather here today to honor David. Is that what the dude's name is? David? So during the service, we actually learned that number one, his name is in fact not David, and number two, Duck thinks that Red Guy is his best friend, despite Red saying that he's not.
It's time for some lovely remarks by the best friend.
What? I'm not the best friend.
Yes, you are.
I'm your best friend. I didn't.
Yeah. We're close.
I mean, I know you. I know which one you are.
Look, I'm leaving you all my stuff.
Yeah, but I don't want it. I mean, that's just our stuff anyway. That's our plate.
And my diary.
There's nothing in it.
It's new. I just got it.
I could do the lovely
I
remark.
don't want you. I want my best friend.
I'm not your best
Hey,
friend.
look, just speak from the heart.
Eventually, we start seeing the actual lesson of this episode, and it starts when a group of weird people suddenly appear in their kitchen. A group of mourners, to be exact. They're just drooping around, crying, eating, breaking things. Anything else you can think of? The tissue box tells them things like, "I understand this is hard," or "You're so brave." Of course, Red and Yellow Guy are not exactly interested in engaging and just want them to leave. Now, personally, I haven't had to deal with losing a loved one, but I have talked to people who have, and they've given me a pretty good view on this episode, starting with this scene. When someone you know dies, or someone you know is deadly ill, there is this expectation to be sad. Though, honestly thinking, I guess I could expand this to when any kind of tragedy happens. In essence, when something bad happens, you must be sad. I mean, if you're not sad over this obviously sad thing, well, what's wrong with you? What, do you lack empathy? Do you actually hate this person that this bad thing is happening to? I bet you do, because you're not on your knees crying about it. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. There is this weird societal pressure that you must overall feel bad because of whatever it is that's happening. You know, minus folks who aren't exactly in the loop. Some people fail to understand that not only do people process grief differently, but sometimes some people just can't handle it. You've got to understand that some already have too much on their plate, too many things to worry about in their own life, and perhaps they're not mentally ready to take on another worry. Everyone should be free to grieve however they feel comfortable, and I kind of think the last thing that they need to be told is that they're jerks for not being sad enough. However, as we'll learn later, not all grieving processes are healthy. So, Red and Yellow's first task is to start replacing their friend. Wait, no, as we've learned already, they're not friends, so replacing him should be pretty easy. This build a friend session does not exactly go well, however, and Yellow throws a tantrum.
Alright, well, what about Lucky Mo? He's on special offer. He's got no opinions and no reviews.
I'm up for anything. Let's have fun. Or not have fun.
Oh, no, I don't like him. I don't like any of them.
Too bad for him, he just created their new friend. This guy, just like the rest, doesn't get a name, so I'll just call them Stain. Meanwhile, during this, Duck is in the grave just being annoying. Apparently he accepted that he's dead, but not with the fact that death comes with doing nothing for an eternity.
Hey, how can I help?
Hello. Should we play a game? Should we play snooker? Or maybe beach volleyball? I never tried that.
Wow, games, yeah. I'd love to play a game. But actually, I've got a lot to do, so it's gonna have to be a no. And remember, the buzzer is only for when you really need me. Okay, you don't need to press it when I'm here.
Just checking it still works.
Still works.
What if I need the toilet?
You won't need the toilet.
I drank a milkshake during the service.
Well, you shouldn't really have done that.
Let's get to know each other. Ask me some questions.
No.
Let's listen to some music.
Where did you get that? What is this?
I made it myself.
Okay.
On the computer.
Back at home, Red is showing Stain around, and they get adjusted pretty quickly. They even take Duck's old chair. Yellow gets pretty frustrated with Stain. He's upset at the thought that someone could even try to replace Duck. All the while, Red tries to just pretend that nothing is wrong. As a song about remembering their memories goes on, it becomes more and more obvious to me that things aren't exactly going well. There are pretty different ways that people accept or deal with death. Personally, I think that Bird represents acceptance, someone who understands that death is just a part of life and something that we all will eventually have to deal with, even though, like most of us, he's pretty unaware of what death will consist of. And by the way, another detail that I want to point out is that Stain, who is supposed to replace Duck, says that the spot where the coffin emerged from is horrible, but beautiful at the same time, which is how most people, including myself, usually see death. As for Red Guy, he's unable to accept that his non-best friend has passed away despite trying to be as indifferent about it as possible, even going as far as trying to replace Duck with somebody else. I think that most of us would try to be level-headed and cool when tragedy strikes. However, if you haven't noticed, we're human, and emotions are very important. It's awful, but allowing yourself to feel grief is almost necessary. We've seen time and time again how damaging it is to keep such emotions inside. In this case, Red not allowing himself to feel or to just talk about how he feels, which results in that. So weirdly enough, Yellow Guy is the one who is able to deal with grief in the most healthiest way, which says a lot about what he does. Yellow is obviously in a lot of pain, being reminded of Duck with his memories, pictures, and old things. He cries and wishes for him to come back. A lot of times, moments like these aren't about finding solutions. It's about finding support and allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel. That being said, I would very much suggest not digging up your loved ones' bodies. Just a word of advice. So yeah, he digs Duck back up, and Duck is pretty confused, obviously. I mean, he did just spend all day in a coffin and is dead. Pretty relatable, honestly, as someone who feels very dead on the inside and is confused on a daily basis. So Red is trying to get things to normality, and if I wasn't clear already, Red managed to basically make Stain into an almost perfect clone of Duck. However, before that's even really acknowledged, Duck says a line that just brings me a lot of joy. I don't know, it just reminds me of this line from Invader Zim that always made me lose my mind.
But What do you mean? I thought you were supposed to stay in the ground.
Oh, that was all a bit nothingy. Not really for me. Now, I want to sit in my area.
Anyways, about the whole clone thing, at first Duck accepts it. After all, he is a bit of a narcissist. However, he ends up being a bit too much of a narcissist and takes the other duck's head off. And that's how it ends. Something I want to mention is that what I find interesting is that we actually don't really know which one died, that being the original duck or the clone. I would say maybe take into account which one was standing where. I mean, not that I think it matters in the long run, but, you know, something to think about. So just in case you missed everything I've said, this episode has a lot to do with emotions and overall grief. The lesson here being don't bottle up your emotions and don't let others dictate your emotions. Oh, and also don't dig up your dead best friend. Not exactly my favorite episode. The next episode, however. This is a strange little episode and one of my favorites. However, it's also pretty straightforward. We start with the trio in the kitchen, and one of them found a bag of chips called Shuttle Dollops. I've never heard of them, must be a UK thing. They can't seem to get the bag open, and that's when an apple suddenly starts to sing about eating unhealthy snacks. However, he gets thrown out of the episode real quick by these two monstrosities.
Did you know that preservatives...
Eh?
Oh dear, Todney. Looks like these guys need our help.
Hooray, Lily. There's nothing we like more than to help.
I'm not kidding. When I first saw these two, I was suddenly reminded of the time I went behind my parents' back and watched like my first horror film. It was this little movie called Dead Silence. And ever since I watched Dead Silence, it made me really wary around puppets. Especially those big baby-looking doll ones. And these guys check so many boxes. I also feel like I have to mention that these are the two first humanoid or human-esque puppets that we've seen in this show, which is kind of uncanny. So these two are called Lily and Todney, and they're here to help the trio with their little chip problem. Simply put, the chips are a family pack and they're not able to open it because they're not a family. Now, at first I thought, wow, that's pretty rude. I mean, who are you to dictate what does and what doesn't count as a family? At first they did count themselves as a family, but as we soon learn, they don't even really like each other. So, I mean, if you don't even like each other, how could you count as a real family? Lily and Todney seem to have a lot of demands for what does count as a family, but they must know what they're talking about. I mean, they're wearing matching outfits. The answer here is simple. In order to know what a real family is, they need to see what a real family is like. So the twins invite the trio over for dinner, and I'm sure that this invitation will not end up in anything horrifying, right?
More tea?
No. No, thank you.
So everything in these next few scenes having to do with Lily and Todney's house feels wrong. I mean, the setting is real, and all previous sets that we've seen were clearly in a studio using things like felt paper and clay. Meanwhile, this looks like an actual living room. Not to mention that just the look of everything feels disgusting. Everything has the color of vomit. We eventually get to see more of Lily and Todney's family, starting with Grandma, who I'm sure looked very lovely back in the day. We also get to see their father and their brother, and this isn't revealed until later in the episode, but I just kind of want to get it out of the way since it doesn't feel too important for me to mention then. This is the dad and this is the son. Very normal family. So during this visit they do very normal family things such as watch home movies and get high off the family scent.
It smells funny in here.
That's our family scent. Every family has a scent.
Hey, I don't mind it one bit.
Hey, don't sniff it all. It belongs to the whole family.
Yeah, leave some for us.
Oh, I didn't get a sniff in.
Don't worry, we can always make more.
But this is just the beginning of learning what a family is like. Everything is put on hold when it's remembered that it is family game night, baby!
It's family game time! Family game time! Family game time!
What's this now?
Game time!
Family game time. Family game time.
Family game time.
Family game time. Family game time.
I'm not exactly sure what they're playing. Maybe Game of Life. I mean, it's definitely not Mousetrap, and they definitely didn't make it up. I'm guessing no one's following the rules. Not that it matters. They're all being assigned game pieces, and it seems that Yellow gets the best piece. Mother's piece. So as predicted, Duck is the first one to get fed up with the twins, and he wants to leave, but they insist on at least finishing the game, so he tries to take his turn. But in traditional don't hug me I'm scared fashion, things start to get a little strange.
Fine, look, pass me that
What? Mother's piece must only be touched by Mother!
You broke the rules.
Perhaps you should leave.
piece. Fine, come on, guys, let's go.
No, you're not the dad of us. I'm staying.
And it's my turn, so.
Not them. Just you.
Now, I wish I had an explanation for you on how Duck fell through the floorboards and ended up back at home, but I don't. I think it might just be weird for the sake of being weird. Now, as we all learned by now, family is important. However, what's the point of family if you don't have every member documented in a family tree? The twins have a literal family tree that their house is built around. Also turns out that the tree is alive for some reason, but he is interested in helping the trio. All he needs is a bit of blood.
Just need a drop. There we go.
So, how long until the results? Yeah, I'm pretty excited to finally meet my family.
Just a little bit.
You're taking quite a lot of blood there, actually. I reckon when I meet my family, they probably want to get a new photo.
Don't worry, I'm sure he'll stop at any moment.
It doesn't matter if my family will give me some of their blood.
I'm sure he's fine, so let's go check in with Duck and see what he's up to. After committing murder, Duck sings a song about not wanting to be in a family anyways, which, depending on who you are, is either a song about actually not caring about being in a family, or is just someone really coping. In my opinion, there's no way that this song is not a coping mechanic. Having this view on family is actually concerningly common. Having a disdain for your own family or the family structure is pretty normal. Too many people these days have fundamental disagreements with their parents and siblings. Perhaps you're someone with abusive parents. Perhaps your parents just didn't seem to value you as a person. Or maybe they berated you to the point where you wanted to hurt yourself. Now, to this day, the idea of a family causes you so much stress and fear that you just want to throw up. Just constantly being riddled with the fear of a deadly, never-ending cycle. I mean, not that I would know anything about it, of course. My point being that it is extremely normal to have resentment towards family, thus can scare people away from being in some sort of family again. And by the way, I'm not saying this in a way to try to insult those that deal with this. It's just, most of the times, yes, it is a coping mechanic. On the other hand, there are those types of people who genuinely don't like the idea of being in a family, which I'll say right now is a-okay. There's this pretty stupid stigma around people deciding to stay single and alone. Whatever the reasons may be, I myself have faced the same thing a little bit by just telling people I'm not interested in dating. However, to get back to the people who want a family but are either too scared or nervous to do so, don't rush into things. You'll figure yourself out, and it might just take a while. That is okay. Just because you're falling back a bit doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. We are often showed that getting married and having a family is the ultimate end goal. However, don't feel pressured into doing such a thing if that's just not right for you. Back at the twins' home, they're taking their measurements by putting marks on the wall, and I just gotta know. I know that there's those growth charts that some families use to measure their kids' heights, but most of the time in media, I just see families make marks in the wall, and I have to know, do people actually do this? Because if I tried to do this, I would be severely punished, to say the least. Anyways, despite it being super bright outside, apparently it's time for bed.
Oh, yeah! It's bedtime! 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 Bedtime!
Yellow is, of course, having trouble sleeping, not just because of the light outside, but for whatever reason, Lily won't turn off her lamp and Todney won't turn off his flashlight. At this point, you can tell Yellow is getting more and more uncomfortable with staying here. He can't even remember who he came here with. If you're sitting there thinking, why doesn't he just leave? These people are complete fucking weirdos. Well, the thing is that up until this point, he actually saw Lily and Todney as friendly. Something that I haven't mentioned is that ever since the trio got to the twins' home, they've been getting into Yellow's head with constant reassurance that he would be perfect to join their family, along with using Red and Duck as examples of how family members are not supposed to act. Now, Yellow's been shown to be a very emotionally dependent person, which unfortunately makes him easy pickings for anyone with a goal to recruit. That could be anything from a movement, or a religion, or in this case, a family. Also, besides manipulation, I also want to mention a few other tendencies of Lily and Todney. They've shown themselves to be pretty controlling. By that, I mean they try to control the situation around them and also push their ideas. They also invalidate everyone else quite often, in this case invalidating the trio's friendships between each other. And then finally, denial. They're always disapproving of other people's worldviews and even their sanity. Honestly, I can't tell you how close to home this behavior is for me. So after Yellow finally gets to sleep, we actually get to see what happened to Red. The good news is that he is finally with his family. The bad news, however, is that he doesn't seem to fit in. Now, I know that the costumes for Red and his family don't exactly leave much ability to emote, but they just seem annoyed. Call it projection if you'd like, but that's what I'm getting from this scene. Red, however, is happy. Very happy, actually. All that he's been trying to do is express how happy he is. Then, before that they were able to take the family picture, he fell through the floorboards. And now he's back in their home with Duck. I can't say much about Red's interaction with his family, but to me this seems like a case of rejection. Rejection is usually done by withholding love or neglecting a certain family member, which seems to be the case here with Red and his family. Okay, so now we're getting to the weirdest part of the episode. Following Yellow and his slumber, he wakes up to find out that it's dinner time. Now, I am sure that I am not the first one to point this out, but is anyone getting big Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes from this scene? You know, the unconscious victim wakes up to find themselves in a monstrous dinner scenario. Anyways, Yellow's a mom now.
We're all so hungry. Isn't that right, Mummy?
Wait, what? I'm not Mummy.
You are, Mummy. And that means we are a proper family again, doesn't it, Lily? It does, Todney.
And because he is the family's new mom, they now count as a real family and they officially count for the Galton's family discount. Yeah, that's right. The only reason why Lily and Todney were nice to them in the first place is so that they could get a new mother and they can apply for a family-sized tub of chicken. In typical Sawyer family fashion, they all start chanting in order to scare Yellow into making the order, in which this whole scene happens. Eventually, Yellow's father shows up for some chicken and also to beat some ass.
Dad?
So, in the end, the trio ended up where they first started. No family, no bitches, and lastly, no Cheddle Dollars. But is this really true? This traumatic and just awful experience has really taught them something. A family isn't necessarily a group of people that are related by blood, that really a family can just be a group of people who deeply care about each other, and also share the same lawyer. And with that realization, they're finally able to open that bag of Cheddle Dollops.
This time. I guess we could share.
So that was episode 3, and I kind of already said everything I needed to say during the episode itself. I mean, the themes are right there. There's plenty that you could say, but not much to figure out, if that makes sense. With that, we're gonna move on to episode 4. At the time of writing this episode, the subject is a bit too personal for me, but then again, pretty much everything I've talked about so far kind of has been. However, for this instance, I've just kind of recently been in a situation like this, so it kind of hurts to think about. I'll try my best not to go on a tangent with this one. So this episode starts off with our trio being pretty excited because it's computer day. Soon they'll be able to do things like have fun online with things such as email, looking at images of skeletons, and browsing Reddit videos. However, there's a bit of a problem. They won't be able to get online until they type in the password. That password is supposed to be remembered by Yellow Guy, and it is literally his one job! Though, of course, that's just too much to ask.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? Come on, think it through.
Hurry up, we need to get online. I don't want people going around saying we're not online.
Oh, I'm trying.
So at this point, they just kind of have to guess what the password is. They try each other's names, which is entertaining.
Maybe it's my name. Try my name.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Remember the hyphen.
Yeah, the hyphen. There.
Oh, good try, but sorry.
Oh.
However, they're incorrect, and it gets their computer locked. Thankfully, they can still get on. They just have to answer a few questions. Unfortunately, they'd never played enough Papa's games, so they kind of failed to get past security. So it looks like Computer Day is cancelled, and all because Yellow Guy couldn't remember the password. However, I'm sure that the others will be very understanding and won't hold too much animosity towards their friend.
This is all my fault. Why can't I remember the password? Stupid brain. I know it's in there. Stupid.
Hey, come on. It's not your fault. You're just a
Yeah, you can't help it. You're just a
So, rudeness aside, we meet the teacher of this episode. This is Warren, the worm.
I'm Warren the Eagle, fully qualified friendship expert.
Yeah.
I mean, Eagle. Warren, the Eagle. A friendship expert, as he claims. He wears merchandise of a brand called OK Stop, despite not being affiliated with said brand. Which just kind of sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Should make it clear from the outset that although I am no longer officially affiliated with the OK Stop organisation, I am still absolutely within my rights to continue to use their learning materials and branding, okay?
So Warren is here because he needs to teach them a little bit about friendship. So, in typical don't hug me, I'm scared fashion, he starts to sing.
We don't even know who you
Yeah,
are.
okay, don't talk over it.
Once upon a time there was a guy that I knew, and he had a group of best friends. It's true. They would talk on the phone, hello, and meet up for lunch, yum yum, and even stay up all night just for a laugh. But so one day,
What is this?
Is it his backstory?
We're supposed to be online.
Excuse me?
guys are being good mates.
Sorry, can I just stop you there? Just-
And they asked for
How long is this gonna last?
way too late for that, guys. You gotta be better best friends. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
you
but we
gotta
just do not have time for whatever this is.
From here, it's pretty obvious that they don't really care about what he has to say. Unlike the other teachers who at least have their nonsense go on for a good while, Warren is constantly interrupted and dismissed, and I can't blame him either. Besides his appearance, his lessons clearly have more to do with his own issues than actually, teaching a lesson.
You don't think it was an interesting story?
Well, not really.
It was clearly about you.
Well, would it surprise you to know that the guy in that story was actually me?
Well, yeah. I mean, you did some of it in first person.
The thing in the animation looked like you.
Okay, stop.
Speaking of his looks, he's pretty self-conscious about it. And one good thing came out of it though. Yellow finally remembered the password. I mean, fuck whatever Warren was here for. It's time to browse the internet and do all kinds of crazy shit like illegally download music. However, first things first, it's time to check the email. So Red got an email, Bird also got an email, Yellow sadly did not get a single email. That, however, was the final straw. Yellow's always been the punching bag. He's the one who's constantly made fun of and treated like a small child, so he deals with abuse the only way he knows how. He retreats to a safe haven, in his mind, a place with his real best friends. And as far as we know, that's where he plans to stay. Falling back into his mind results in Yellow's face becoming disfigured, and that is when the other two suddenly start to care about what's going on with him.
Hello? What's happened to him?
I don't know. Hey, hello?
Well, there you have it.
With no one else around, they ask Warren for help, which he originally declined until they brought up the possibility of a bestie lunch.
Do something.
What? Fine. Go. I guess you don't want to have that restaurant-style meal after all.
A restaurant-style meal? You guys? With me?
Honestly, I get it. Nothing really beats a lunch with the besties. So back with Yellow, who is just having the time of his life, by the way. He and his buddies are playing party games when Warren suddenly shows up and basically ruins everything. Yellow's friends make the horrible mistake of complimenting Warren and making him feel less of a loser. They even affirm him in believing that he is an eagle. Warren stays, and that starts to affect Yellow even more. I mean, someone who's not his friend, someone that he barely even knows, has just invited himself to his safe place. The worst part really is that I know how this feels. It's that feeling where you understand where your own boundaries are, but you're afraid or don't really know how to express those boundaries. With Warren in his space, he decides that now is the perfect time to ruin everyone else's day. He suggests that they listen to something else, all the while being obnoxious, which makes this lesson very ironic. He starts playing his podcast, which sounds like he's about to go on a rant on why I should invest all my money into crypto. As you can imagine, all the brain friends start to leave. Warren is a bit of a handful, not to mention he either lacks social awareness or is truly that obtuse. I mean, when people are willing to kill themselves to get away from you, maybe consider looking inward. This situation really starts to take a toll on Yellow. The brain friends are gone, one of them killed himself, and now he's stuck with a rat-eyed piece of shit who can't even read a room. So this whole time in the meanwhile, Bird and Red have been browsing WebMD for a possible problem and solution, and surprisingly, it's not cancer. Actually, the problem is that Yellow has a worm in his brain, and a pretty bad one by the looks of it.
Okay, this is my final question. Right, does your friend have a worm in his brain?
A worm in his brain? How are we supposed to know that?
Yeah, a worm in his brain. How would that even work? That's... Oh no, he does have that. Remember? From earlier. There's a worm in his brain, he does, yeah.
Okay, great. I'm ready to diagnose. Just processing my diagnosis. My diagnosis is your friend has got a worm in his brain.
Oh no!
Thank you for visiting Dr. Bushman, MD. Please leave us a comment on your way out.
Right.
So how exactly do you deal with parasitic worms? Well, usually, you just pull them out.
You only really need one. Dashed.
Got him. Pesky bee.
So, unfortunately, the trio didn't really get to use the computer very much, but that's okay, because there's always Computer Day next year. And anyways, making sure that their friend is okay is much more important. They were even given a special gift by the computer, so I guess in this episode everything turned out okay. So, it's pretty obvious what this episode is about, right? It's clearly about having to deal with bad friends, and I'm pretty sure everyone in this audience has at least experienced one bad friend in their lifetime, and you have felt more than liberated getting rid of them. And you know what? Yeah, I've been there. However, sometimes I think about how I allowed this person to stay as long as they did. I mean, I should have seen it from the start, right? Like, how can a person be so dense? Honestly, to be around somebody so ignorant or judgeful and so socially inept to the point where you just want to cry because there's nothing else you can do. A person like that just sounds so unpleasant and awful, and they sound kind of like me. I won't lie, this episode hurt to rewatch due to recent events in my personal life. Basically, to give you the TLDR, I'm not a good friend. I have been told quite a few times that I lack social skills, which I can fully agree. I've lost friends before over my issues, and I'm trying not to make others feel pity for me, but sometimes I can't help but think about how unfortunate my situations have been. Like, just hear me out for a second, right? I don't expect people to just sit around and deal with my bullshit. However, at the same time, I can't say that being suddenly dumped to the side and being told about how I am the problem is supposed to make me feel better. Like, my biggest problem is that I have very bad emotional attachment issues. So what exactly do you think will happen if you, my aka best friend, suddenly tell me that you can't stand being around me and leave me? I wouldn't imagine it turns out very well. Look, I'm not here to tell you that you shouldn't just dump your friends when they're being too toxic, but I think it takes a bit of understanding from both sides to reach a conclusion. If your conclusion is that you just can't handle being around this person anymore, that's fine. After all, if I'm the one who's just being too toxic, I guess I brought it on myself. So let's move on to the next episode before I have an emotional crisis. This next episode is called Travel, and it's pretty straightforward. However, first thing I want to bring to attention in this part is the intro.
And every day we all hang out to find out what we talk about. I'm the one who had a dream where there was stuff like there was another me, and everything was lots of fun. And I went and saw the other ones, and there was a little lumpy one and another windy middle one, and there were things that they had around that I knew what they were, but I don't know now. And then it went away. That's 3 of us, just 3 of us 3.
And continuing on from there, we start with the trio just sitting in the kitchen. Bird here is taking count of everything with his clipboard, and let me tell you, this guy is real serious about taking count. Then seemingly out of nowhere, Red just starts spewing nonsense. He starts to express things like a feeling of being trapped.
But I say put the clipboard in the bin, because I hate the clipboard.
What did you say?
I said I hate the clipboard, and I hate this place.
Please don't have said that.
You don't mean that.
Which, yes, I know is crazy. I mean, what kind of person wouldn't love to do the same thing every single day? Why bother with experiencing new things, am I right? However, before Red could explain any more, another teacher has showed up.
Did somebody say transport?
This is Choo Choo, a train who's here to show them the wonders of transportation, as long as he can get through one sentence without dying. Also, first, before he does anything, he needs a bit of his special drink, coffee, maybe? I'm willing to bet it's coffee. I mean, only coffee could look that disgusting. So as usual, the teacher here has a song. And I don't know about you guys, but after listening to said song, I don't feel properly educated on the topic of transportation.
You'd be better with a bicycle or even in a car.
Morphing.
Yeah, stop morphing. Not morphing. You're morphing.
Just keep going. He's fine.
So unsurprisingly, Choo Choo has kicked the bucket, but then again, what do you expect from someone who drinks black coffee? Yellow and Bird are quick to discard Choo Choo and the lesson, ready to just move on with their lives. Red, however, does the unimaginable. Bro wants to drive the car himself. The others keep saying that it's not allowed and it'd be impossible for them to do anything with the help of someone else, which has been pretty consistent throughout all of these episodes. The only reason these characters do anything and get into any shenanigans is because they're forced into it. I'm pretty sure if they were just left alone, they'd just stare into the void until they rot. Which I imagine would be true, but mainly for Yellow and Bird. Those two seem fine just dealing with the same thing over and over, the same rotation day in and day out. Red, however, as we can see, has been getting slowly more and more fed up. He craves independence, and staying in this house with the same people is driving him mad. So Red eventually gets the dead car corpse working, and that moment that they're out, they're amazed. They're like gamers seeing the sun for the first time after 12 years.
What's happening?
The sky is rewinding.
No, it's supposed to do that. It means we're going somewhere.
I think I prefer the kind of transport where you're indoors.
And in our house and not moving.
Well, don't say that. Just wait till we get...
Things start to unravel quick though, since Bird just gets bored and Yellow, all he wants to do is go home. And then to make matters even worse, Choo Choo is still alive. He's alive and starts to go into the show's lore before he's rightfully shut up. Choo Choo does eventually break down again, and the characters are in a junkyard. A regular looking junkyard. Gone are the cartoonish blue skies, grassy hills, and paper trees. All they're left with is smog and waste. As they huddled around a fire, taking in their situation, Yellow hears a voice.
Lessons learned. You may feel like you're alone, but no matter how much the wheels turn, the journey always ends up back at home.
Moo, 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 says a cow.
So children, what does this episode tell us? This episode deals a lot with something that I'm pretty sure everyone deals with at some point. Plenty of people, including myself, deal with this feeling of being stuck. There's this almost existential type of crisis that you feel when you come to realize that having freedom to travel isn't exactly available to you, and that can be by any means as well. Perhaps there's someone who won't let you leave, perhaps you don't have enough money, etc. It is almost this impossible urge that we can't get rid of that just yearns for freedom. Yet, a lot of us cannot chase it due to whatever means. And while I would like to be positive, I think the show just likes to give this a more negative twist, reminding us that no matter how far we go or how long we are gone for, we will always find our way back home. But you know what? I'm going to apply my own positive twist on their negative twist. If you left for something such as a vacation with friends and then you made it safely back home, well then great, you made it safely back home. However, if you're someone trying to run from their situation, maybe trying to find a new place to live, or overall looking for greener pastures, then you will eventually find your new home. And there you go, there's my positive interpretation just to keep things a bit more on the sunny side. Take it or leave it. So now we're on the last episode, and this one is the most lore heavy, and while that's not my focus, in this case it ties with the themes of the episode. It starts with the trio hanging out in the kitchen. Bird is doing a crossword puzzle while Yellow and Red are doing dishes. He's having trouble figuring out what the opposite of down is, and Yellow is being quirky by saying cryptic things.
Hey, I know. It's when you can't remember that over the top of you there's bigger ones that are bigger and bigger, and then over the top of it there's a smaller one of all of it at the top of that.
What?
Huh?
That's not going to fit. What's wrong with you?
And for being a little bit too quirky, they treat him like a dumbass because I guess we just didn't learn from that one previous episode. Bird eventually gets fed up with the puzzle and decides to just shred it, along with other random junk found in their mail. They're really based for a second and criticizing the fact that we have to pay for something as vital and important as electricity. However, it's time for another teacher, and this one is here to teach them about, you guessed it, electricity. This teacher is called Electracy. You're allowed to laugh now, by the way. So her song is about showing us the ins and outs of electricity, and honestly, this is news to me. I just kind of assumed that my computer worked through my own willpower.
Have to agree. Now your brain's over without electricity.
After this nice lesson, they ask Tracy about how she's able to work herself. I mean, she's not plugged in, so how could she possibly be running? And it's simple, she works with batteries. Just like Yellow does, apparently. I mean, shock aside, Yellow's batteries look awful, and they're probably leaking battery acid too. So Bird decides to do the rational thing and swap Tracy and Yellow's batteries, which, while it turns Tracy into an intoxicated goober, it makes Yellow intelligent?
So, do you feel any different? So, do you feel any different?
I feel
weird. Guys, my shoes are plugs for shoes.
He managed to solve the word puzzle from before and even shut down a teacher who was about to teach them about insurance?
Insurance! When insurance is back to normal. You can take it from me. You can break what you want and get new stuff for free.
Hang on, that's wildly misleading.
What?
Well, look, in the simplest terms, an insurance transaction involves the insured assuming a guaranteed and known relatively small loss in the form of payment to the insurer in exchange for the insurer's promise to compensate the insured in the event of a covered loss. But you must know that.
It's almost like you're teaching me.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yes, but I'm going to go, though.
We can still see you.
No, you can't.
What's happening here?
Of course, this proceeds to freak the others out and they basically shun Yellow away. And that is when he notices something. Stairs. Stairs that the audience haven't ever seen either. So of course, he ascends the stairs and he finds something called the Big Boys Room. Here we find two big-headed versions of Red and Bird, and of course, they're just much smarter. I mean, they even learn 2 subjects at once.
Oh, there you are.
I'm not sure we've met.
Good one. We've been waiting for you.
Have you? You seem...
Big?
Yeah, we're big boys.
Big boys.
Big boys. Try and keep up, mate.
No, I think I get it. You're quite big.
Yeah. And we're so big, we don't just sit around and learn about one subject at a time.
Yeah, that's for dummies and wimps.
Really? Okay, great.
We do 2 at once.
Right, well...
What's wrong? I thought you were up for pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, but 2 at...
That's right. Boundaries are important.
No, that's
nice
not
to
what...
hold hands with somebody else, but sometimes you need to keep them to yourself.
That's not what he meant.
What?
I said he meant...
Somebody say sedimentary?
What? No!
Rocks
Oh, come
are
on!
interesting from the ground, minerals and some rocks say...
Yellow thought this would be great until he realized that this was just more lessons from the teachers, but along with something else odd. So it's time to move on, and it seems that another set of stairs have showed up, which lead to a room called the Bigger Boys Room. However, before we do that, let's check back with Bird and Red going through a bit of a process of turning everything into an electrical device, such as turning edible regular grapes into non-edible electric grapes. This eventually turns into a blackout and they basically can't do anything due to Tracy's poor state. We'll come back to them in a second, back to the Bigger Boys Room. Here we see more versions of Bird and Red, and these guys are a lot more abstract than the last ones. There are a couple of scientists running experiments on some kind of little blob thing. Granted, I'm not sure why, but it's gotta be for science or something. Yellow can't stomach any more of this, so he decides to leave and heads up to the next floor. This one is just called Leslie. In this room, we see a woman playing the piano, and the walls are decorated with things seen from previous episodes. And on top of the piano is a familiar sight, a miniature display of the house we've seen over and over in the intro song. It's already strange enough, but what about the woman playing the piano though? Well, this is Leslie, and Yellow seems to think that she has answers about the house, and she very much could. If he helps her clean up the dollhouse, then she'll help him out. Back in the kitchen, Red and Bird are still in the dark, but it seems that the kitchen has turned more into some sort of an abyss. We see teachers from recent episodes and even ones from the web series.
Oh dear. Was that always dead here?
No, that's... Wait, do we know him?
Do we?
Where are we? Oh, wait. Here we go.
Hi, pals. I knew you'd find me eventually. Now, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so which one of you needs it most?
The weirdest part for me personally is that neither recognize any of them. Which, yes, I get it, can tie into like lore reasons, but I'm not going to dig into that right now. We'll come back to them in a bit, but for now, just know that these two are wandering in the dark aimlessly. Yellow and Leslie are fixing up the dollhouse, and in the process, the doll version of Bird loses his head. Leslie just reveals that she's got tons of backups. Might just give some lore answers on how these characters seem to die and then just be okay the next day. And before we move on, I just quickly want to mention the design of the dollhouse on top of the piano. As we can see, it has 4 floors, which is the original house that the trio lives in, the Big Boys Room, the Bigger Boys Room, and Leslie's room. So we now know the existence of these other rooms and stairs in this house in general. And you gotta wonder, how come none of the other characters ever noticed these stairs before? While it could be argued that the show is filmed to be similar like a sitcom, in which there is a set built to only be filmed at one angle, I would say that the sets of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared are more built similar to a dollhouse. Dollhouses, as you know, are built to usually just be 3 walls, while 1 wall is gone for us to be able to interact with said dollhouse. And I mean, dolls don't really know that they're being controlled and played with, much how it seems that our characters don't seem to know that either. We as the audience, when you think about it, play a very invasive role. We have seen these characters time and time again go through grief and other tragic events, basically for the sake of our own amusement. And in terms of a dollhouse in which you have all the power to put them in whatever horrible events you can think of, personally, I think there's something very macabre about that concept. And yet at the same time, it's very fascinating. Then again, I could just be thinking too deeply into it. So, back to the actual story of this episode. Leslie then offers him an old book with some symbols and the trio's faces engraved on the cover. After that, she encourages him to leave and go find his friends. After he leaves, that's when the camera pans to a corner of the room, showing us that there is, in fact, another floor. Keep that in mind later, I'll mention it. Yellow comes back to the bottom floor where the moment that Bird sees him, he switches out the batteries between him and Tracy. And sure, their power is back on, but Yellow is back to being a dumbass. He stares at the book that's in his hands, struggling to remember what he was supposed to do with it. And that is when he does the unthinkable.
Something.
What?
Yes, yes.
Something. Shreddable. Hey!
And as the book is destroyed, we zoom away from the 3. All that's seemingly in front of them is a long hallway. The stairs are gone, and that is the last that we see of them. That is the ending to Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. So, what's the conclusion here? What are we supposed to take from all this? Personally, I don't think that we can talk about this episode without thinking about everything else that we've learned in previous episodes. So let's do some quick recaps, shall we? Episode 1 obviously explores things such as capitalism, also toxic or poor work environments, and the general discontentment with working, aka the fact that you're just another cog in the machine sort of deal. Working all your life just to, in turn, waste your life with little return. Episode 2 explores death, specifically about how people process death. It's also about the stages of grief and the social stigma that comes with intense sadness. Episode 3 is about toxic families, domestic mistreatment, and even religious abuse to an extent. Episode 4 is about toxic friendships and the inability to defend oneself from others' mistreatment. Episode 4 is about the feeling of being stuck and really about the limited amount of freedom that we usually have. You know, we leave one place just to really be back where we started. And so here we are at episode 5. And what does episode 5 represent? Well, to me, I would say that this episode represents something that most humans fear, and that is realizing that all of these things are part of a deadly cycle. Throughout Yellow's ascension up the stairs, all different versions of Red and Duck mention that they've been waiting there for him. The stair walls are decorated with images of him going up the stairs over and over. Leslie brings up things about how Yellow still doesn't have a sense of humor, meaning that she's at least met him before this. She also shows that she has plenty of other backup dolls, meaning that no matter how many times these characters die or get hurt, they'll soon be ready to face whatever horrible thing is ready for them again. Yellow had the answers in his hands, an explanation to this house and what they're doing there. And instead, it's shredded. And now, not only can they continue to live in ignorance, but they're just doomed to repeat all of the horrible things they've experienced and more. And then there was the door. Remember the mysterious door that seemed to be left unnoticed in Leslie's room? Maybe it was an exit, or maybe it was another floor. Either way, it shows that there is more to this house and there could be more to their lives. And yet, it goes untouched. The characters stay here, unable to break the cycle. Now, I love these kinds of stories, and it's also the reason why I love the horror genre so much. I can easily frighten myself with anything from deadly parasites or monsters. It's this sort of surrealist horror that parodies and pokes at things in regular, normal life, but at the same time frighten you because you understand that's exactly what it's like. It's kind of like what the role of clowns used to be, you know, before they strictly became things for children. Similar to Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the job of a clown was to basically poke and parody the absurdities of adult life, hopefully with the opportunity to maybe just have a chuckle at your own expense for how serious you're constantly taking yourself. So I think Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is just doing that, but in horror form. It's there to give you a fear of the mundane, a job you can't escape, a place that you're desperate to leave, or knowing that there is a system that doesn't care about you. And it is for these reasons and more that things like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared is my own personal nightmare. Wow, okay, this video was kind of a chore, took way too long to write, and took me to places of my mind that I don't like to go to. I hope you enjoyed. I am going to try to make more longer content such as this, which I understand will take longer to make, but that's just because usually I have a lot to say on things. But hey, if you made it this far, thank you so much. I will see you all in the next video.